Bleacher Report says that Austin Riley's deal is going to be one of MLB's 9 worst contracts by 2028. Is that a bit much? Yes, welcome on into the Braves Today podcast, your daily source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, award-winning baseball writer and podcaster. Also the founder of BravesToday.com, your daily Braves newsletter, because Braves Today is both a podcast and a newsletter. We're probably part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com to get started. Today, I want to talk about Austin Riley. Bleacher Report put out an article just the other day. It's Kerry Miller from Bleacher Report. I think this came out on Tuesday. And Kerry was naming, in 2028, the 9 biggest, quote, nightmare contracts. And a lot of this is stuff that you kind of would expect. Mike Trout was on there, because that'll be his age 36 season. And he's not necessarily been the same Mike Trout in years, right? Oh, and he'll have $100 million left on his contract still by 2028, right? Corey Seager, his age 34 year, and he'll have $31 million a year for 4 more years. Like, a lot of these deals kind of make sense. Trey Turner, I've talked about this. His age 35 season, he's a shortstop that relies on his speed. They'll be paying him $27.25 million every year for 6 years, starting in 2028. Like, that's how much longer that deal has. Manny Machado, $40 million a year from 28 through 33. Like, his defense is already negative at third base. He's been at he was at -6 outs above average and -4 fielding run value last year. Like, a lot of these make sense. Xander Bogaerts is in there too. $25 million a year for 6 years from 28 through 33. But number 8 on this list was Austin Riley. And it's kind of hard to read this. It's kind of hard to think about this. So let me lay out the case, let me lay out their case, why they think Austin Riley will be a problem. And then let's talk about, can we expect a rebound from Austin? Like, what are proper expectations for him this year? So for Riley, 2028 will be his age 31 season. And he will be owed $22 million for 5 seasons, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. He has a $20 million club option for 2023. So first, just on a money perspective, this deal isn't nearly as bad as a lot of these other ones, simply because it's only $22 million. It's not mid-30s. It's not $40 million. Aaron Judge is 4 years of $40 million a year, ages 36 through 39. Like, Riley's the youngest of anybody on this list. It's like the lowest salary of anybody on this list. And Bleacher Report alludes to that. They say that by the time Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, and Alex Bregman sign this winter, Riley won't even be a top 40 player in salary. But the issue here, and we've talked about this before, is in the last 2 seasons, he's not been the same guy that he was after he signed the deal. So if you look 2021 through 2023, Austin Riley hit .286 with a .354 on base, a .525 slug. He averaged 36 home runs a year and played 159 games per year on average. Came out to almost 19 WAR via Baseball Reference in that 3-year span. You know, and when we talk about this, we kind of point out that he was a Silver Slugger twice in that span. He was an All-Star twice in that span. And had 3 MVP finishes, a 6th place finish and 2 7th place finishes. But since then, Riley has hit .258 with a .316 on base and a .445 slug. So 28 points of batting average down. 30, I think it's 38 points is off the top of my head. 38 points of on base and like 80 points of slug. He's averaged 17 and a half home runs and 106 games. So 4.2 WAR per Baseball Reference WAR. I think the bigger thing, and this is something that they don't do in here in this piece, because you don't really have to when you make that comparison, but I think it's important to look at Riley's pace. If you're acknowledging that he missed games, right? He averaged 106 games a year the last 2 seasons. Then you need to look at what would his production have given him statistically based on the pace he was on when he got hurt. And the last 2 years, Riley was on pace for a 26 homer season, which is not bad, but not what you expect when he gave you 33, 38, and 37. And after seasons of 135, 140, and 130 OPS plus, he was worth 111 the last 2 seasons. And even that's kind of split up. It was a 115 in 24 and only a 106 last year. And in the piece, they kind of argue Riley missed time with an oblique injury and a fractured hand in 24. And then core injuries this most recent year. He missed 60 games of the final 69. And the question posed here is, can he bounce back, or has Riley already peaked? And if he's already peaked, how much worse are things going to get when he's in his mid-30s? And that's why he's on this article. That's why he's in this article. That's why they're asking, is Riley doomed to be a bad contract? And this is honestly kind of tough for me. I think we would all agree getting the 21 through 23 Austin Riley back would be huge. That is the thing that Atlanta needs, more so than anything else, in 2026. You didn't add a big bat in free agency because your big bat, you're counting on Ronald Acuna Jr. playing a full season. You're counting on Matt Olson hitting for power like he has in the past. And you're counting on Austin Riley to be Austin Riley. And it's been 2 years now that you haven't seen Austin Riley be Austin Riley. And my question is, and what we have to discuss, is it likely that he rebounds this upcoming season? Or is this now who he is, a fundamentally flawed player that when he can work around his flaws, he can be hot, but when he doesn't work around his flaws, he's going to struggle? Or is a lot of this just influenced by the injuries? Let's break that down next, right here on Braves Today. As I've been trying to figure out Austin Riley's injury and whether or not, Austin Riley's slump, his drop in performance, and whether or not he's going to rebound, I've looked at a couple different things, dates of when stuff happened, right? Because if you ask Braves fans, there's a couple, I'm not going to call them conspiracy theories, but there's a couple ideas out there. Some people say that he struggled after the extension. He signed that in August of 2022. The very next year, he hit .281 with 37 homers in that 2023 season, that amazing 2023 offense, won the Silver Slugger in the National League, and had a 7th place MVP finish. So, if it was getting paid and getting the money, why didn't it affect him the first season he played after getting the money? So, thing number one, I don't think it's that. I wondered if it was the birth of his child. And that sounds ridiculous, but hear me out. The kid was born in April of 2022. But, a parent to multiple kids, the lack of sleep and all of that stuff that can happen, I wondered if that was going to be the issue. One, his his child was born in April of 2022, so even before he signed the extension, and his home and road splits were perfectly fine, right? You would think if he was having an issue with not getting sleep at home, it would show up in his home numbers versus his road numbers. So it wasn't that. And a couple people have talked kind of, the tragic loss of Mike Brumley, his private hitting coach, who passed away in June of 2024. I don't really even think it's that, right? 2024 wasn't the season he wanted to have, no, but his first half and second half numbers were within 3 points of batting average and had the exact same OPS plus. So it wasn't that. I really just do think that it's slumps and injuries. And what's tough about this, like what makes this hard for Riley, is historically, he's been a very good performer over the summer. When you look at his career splits and you break it out by season, he's played at least 121 games in every month. He has at least 514 plate appearances. So it's close to a full sample here, a full season of sample. By far, his best months are July and August. In July, he has a 927 OPS with 41 career homers. It's a 590 slug in July. In August, 859 OPS, 513 slug. Those are his best months. By contrast, September and October, 768 OPS, 443 slugs. Some of that is colored by facing better pitching in the postseason, but still, he does not finish the season well. April and March, 263 average, 795 OPS. He doesn't always start off incredibly hot. He's not unplayable, but he's not Austin Riley until July. July and August are where he really gets his volume. That's where he gets his slug and all of that stuff. And one of the problems you have is in the last two seasons, he hasn't gotten that July and August to perform. In 2025, the first time he goes on the injured list with the abdominal strain, it's an effective date of July 12th. He comes back on the 25th, plays in the Speedway Classic, re-injures it, goes on the IL on August 4th and misses the rest of the year. If you back up a season, he goes on the IL, his hand is fractured and he goes on the IL on August 19th of 2024. So he gets the July and he gets some of the August before he goes down. But again, it's not the full thing. And that July was good in 24. It wasn't great. And he was slumping a little bit in August. 250 average. Granted, only 17 games, 74 plate appearances. But 250 average. He did hit 5 home runs, but the batting average had dropped and everything before he got hurt. He was hot in June, he was hot in July, and then he started to cool off from an average perspective a little bit in August. So some of this may just be injuries. And the question is, do we think that a fully healthy Austin Riley, if he can stay healthy, which is never a given, that he can get a little bit better level of production in 2026? I do want to point out, when you look at his 25 numbers, he first reported abdominal soreness in early June, but he didn't go down until a little bit later. So he was likely playing through it for a while there before he finally went down in mid-July, which is frustrating. We've seen so many situations where the Braves have let guys play through stuff rather than giving them a little bit of time to avoid needing a bunch of time. But part of me also kind of looks at the actual inputs that go into a lot of this and how, like, it's hard to take out some of the numbers from when he was playing injured. But his strikeout rate has gone up now for 3 consecutive seasons. His walk rate cut almost in half. 49th percentile to 22nd percentile year over year. Sorry, I worded that weird. It went from 8% to 6%. It didn't cut in half. But percentile-wise, he dropped a whole quartile. Like he dropped significantly in the quartile metric there on StatCast. He went from 49th percentile in walk rate, roughly average, to 22nd percentile. He's gotten a little bit better at not chasing. His chase rate's kind of hovering around 50%, 50th percentile. Sorry, I forgot I'm looking at the percentiles, not the percentages here. But he swung and missed a lot more last year than usual. His whiff rate typically, in like good years, bad years, whatever, he's sitting in the high 20s. It's never been good. His whiff rate always kind of hovers around 27% or so. Last year, it was up to 30%. And so he struck out a lot more, he whiffed a lot more, and he walked less. How much of that was the injuries? I honestly don't know how much of this is the injuries, right? How much of swinging and missing more for Riley was the injuries? How much of walking less was the injuries? I don't know. And the question the team has to figure out is how much of that is the injuries? And what did they count on Riley to do? When you look at the projections for Riley for next year, you can pull up, Fangraphs has a bunch of different projections out there. They have the Fangraphs depth charts, they have Steamer, they have the Bat, a couple different systems. All of them have his strikeout rate kind of getting back towards that career norm of 25, 26%, which is what he did in 24. They have his WRC plus. He's not back to the 130s and 40s that he was doing in those MVP finish years, but he's like a 116 to a 120. So they have him rebounding somewhat. Hitting around 260 with an on base in the 320s and a slug somewhere in the high fours. I've seen as low as 459. I've seen 475. Hitting somewhere between 29 and 32 home runs. Now, again, that is a step back from those MVP finish seasons. Is that good enough for Austin Riley? I would argue you need Austin Riley to be the mid-30, like a 35, 100 guy. That's what you need. Like 23, 37 homers, 117 RBI. Okay, great. In 22, when the offense wasn't that juggernaut 23 offense, he still hit 38 homers. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. 117 runs, 97 RBI. My fault. 38, 93. 38 homers, 93 RBI. He did that in 2022. So even without the generational offense, he was still flirting with a 4,100 season. He didn't get it. And I don't think he's going to be that. But can you get him to the mid-30s in homers again? The projection systems don't think so. I do think an underrated thing that we're going to see this year is possibly Antoine Richardson helping Austin Riley steal more bases. His sprint speed last year, even with the injury, 73rd percentile, 28.2 feet per second. And it was actually a little bit higher than it was in 24 and 23. A lot of his off-season work on his defense really helped his speed and his range. So, does Antoine Richardson help Austin Riley steal bases? He has 7 career stolen bags. 2 of them came last year. Does Richardson get him to 10 steals? I don't know. But to me, if Austin Riley doesn't fully come back, if he doesn't become a 35, 100 guy, let's say Austin Riley becomes a 30 homer, 90 RBI guy who's hitting 260. Is that enough for him to make $22 million and it not be a negative. If you judge this by WAR, the average price per WAR in free agency has gone up, you're still getting excess value from that contract. And I would argue, against the premise of the article, if Austin Riley rebounds to those projections and maintains that level of performance, that it's not one of the 9 worst contracts in baseball by 2028. I do think it's interesting to think about Austin Riley's defense last year at third base came out to a -1 fielding run value. Now, granted, he was playing injured for a month or so. But by run value, he's never been a positive defender. Now, he's been bad at times. He was -9 run value in 2022. So this is improvement because he's put up a cumulative -5 in the last 3 years, playing exclusively third base. Outs above average, he's at -5 in the last 3 years, including just -1 last year. Do you eventually have to look at moving Austin Riley to first base? Because the problem you have is you arguably, unless you put Matt Olson at DH, you arguably can't move Austin Riley until 2030. Olson signed through 2029 with a club option for 2030. And the way that Olson has been not only a Gold Glove caliber defender, but the best first base defender in baseball. I wrote a lot about this last year, talked about it on the show. His ability to go out to the foul territory back behind first base and chase balls down halfway deep in the outfield is unmatched. He's very good around the bag. You're not going to move Olson for Riley. Is this a situation where Riley gets more time at DH later in the deal? Not now, right? If you're going to DH anybody right now, it's going to be either Jurickson Profar to get him out of left, Ronald to rest his legs somewhat, or Drake Baldwin to get him in the lineup a day when he's not behind the plate. But is Austin Riley going to be able to be playable at third base when he hits 31 and 32? To the article's credit, that is a question. They didn't even talk about defense at all, but to the article's credit, that's my biggest question, is what does his defense look like? Because you don't have a lot of defensive versatility with him and Olson both in the lineup through 29 or 30. Let me know what you think about Austin Riley. I tend to believe that if he can stay healthy, which is an if, obviously, that he's going to be better. I don't know if he'll get back to that 3-year stint where he was one of the best third basemen in baseball and an MVP finalist, unless Chipper Jones, now that he's taken more of an active role helping Tim Hires this year, unless Chipper Jones can help him fix the problems when they come up. But I am a believer that Austin Riley is going to rebound. His walk rate's going to come closer to his career norms. His strikeout rate is going to drop back closer to its career norms instead of hitting almost 30%. And getting him farther away from the abdominal injury means he should be able to be a little more consistent at the plate and give this offense a slightly higher ceiling. But let me know what you think. I'm on social media at Crosby Baseball. The show's on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. But do me a favor, if you're listening on audio, 5-star review would be fantastic. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. We drop a short, we drop, news, all that kind of stuff. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.